This is Dateline, News and Conversation. The topic tonight, United Nations Agenda 2030. My friend and a frequent guest on this show, Blaz Kavcic from Slovenia, is going to help us pull the curtain back on Agenda 2030, and we'll discover what is really behind it. Blaz, welcome back to the show.
Hello, Regis. Thank you for having me, and kindest regards to your audience.
Well, thank you. Now, Blaz, we've talked about and around Agenda 2030 several times. And I have to admit that I hadn't been paying attention to it. It all sounded very nice, 17 sustainable goals. But since you and I have been talking about this, it has caused me to do a lot more research on my own. And I have really come to the conclusion that, two things. Number one, for me, the United Nations no longer has much credibility, especially the United Nations Security Council. It's really obvious that the United States has too much influence on that entire body. Now, that's a belief that I think is going to be hard to dislodge from my mind. The other thing is these goals, and we can start out by talking about this, are really a kind of soft power. They are not legislation. They're goals whose purpose, now correct me if I'm wrong, is to influence national legislation, city planning, education, corporate mandates, and even international loans. What would you have to say about that as an introduction?
Okay, let me offer an overview of this complex subject. We have discussed it in the past, but it comes up again and again. Now, I will try to explain the connection between some most important events in the world today with the topic of Agenda 2030, Technocracy, ID 2020, Fourth Industrial Revolution. So let's try to connect the actual most important things in the world today, which we all can follow, with these things we are trying to unveil today. Now, President Trump has just signed executive order on Genesis Mission AI. United Nations has given to Trump a mandate to continue the genocide in Gaza and to profit from real estate projects. In Brazil, COP30 meeting just finished. Now, what does COP stand for? Another fluffy, perverse term directly meaning Conference of the Parties. Very neutrally sounding. Quite nice, isn't it? In fact, it means that, what does it mean? 199 countries of the world actively promote implementation of Agenda 2030. Also my country and also yours. Let's try answering some basic questions first before we go into details and contexts. Now, is Agenda 2030 a conspiracy theory or a real thing? For some people, it is still a theory or something irrelevant or something not very important. I recently met a Slovenian career politician, university graduate, quite clever guy. For many years, one of the leading members of the political party called the Left, Levica. Few weeks ago, he formed a new political party called We the Socialists. And they had a stand in front of our local farmers market here in Škofja Loka, signing a petition against wars. Fine. We are all against wars, presumably. I asked him some questions to establish positioning in relation to the most relative social questions of today. One of the questions was Agenda 2030. What is his position towards this thing? And he answered, Agenda 2030, this is just a conspiracy theory. When I exposed the fact that Agenda 2030 is presented as the leading project on the homepage of Slovenian government, well, then he had no further comments. So, first, Agenda 2030 is a hard fact, explained in detail on the homepages of United Nations, European Union, and every national state all around the world. So it is. Now, let's ask ourselves, is it a good thing or a bad thing? Is it good for us or bad for us? It depends how we define we. Who are we? If we means 1% of the people on the top, then Agenda 2030 is good, at least short term, as it means further concentration of wealth and decision-making power and enslaving the 99%. If we means ordinary citizens, you and me, then Agenda 2030 is nothing else but a death sentence. Hardly anybody sees the situation so drastically, as I have explained just now, my views, or at least people don't want to publicly comment on it in this way. Now, let us briefly check for a start how Agenda 2030 is presented officially by the global controlling powers. They say, the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development sets out a vision for sustainable development grounded in international human rights standards, pushing equality and non-discrimination at the center of its efforts, and encompassing not only economic and social rights, but also civil, political, and cultural rights, and the right to development. This all sounds quite nice, doesn't it? Maybe a little vague and new agey, but it is very concisely presented, claiming to uphold universal values by three principles. Principle 1, human rights-based approach. Principle 2, leave no one behind. Principle 3, gender equality and women's empowerment. The official principles of Agenda 2030 could definitely be interpreted in a positive way. But should we expect development solutions in favor of quality of life, of our lives, from the people that have systemically and systematically created wars, genocides, pandemics, destruction of environment and supply chains, energy crisis, economic bubbles, and busts. Are we fully aware of the fact that the networks of power are causing better part of value created by us, the people, to be used for destruction? There are no accidents, it's a system. To be objective, we should study what top alternative researchers have written and lectured. There was Rosa Koire, and her presentations present in a very clear way both the official narrative and actual truth. Maybe most comprehensive contributor today is Patrick Wood, author of many books, and there are others who analyze very objectively particular components in depth, like James Corbett, Alison McDowell, Whitney Webb, and others. Maybe the most important aspect of looking at Agenda 2030 is what it really is. It is not a neutral academic paper. It is the master plan for the human civilization. It is followed by all the states, the United States, European Union, Russia, China, India, Brazil, Iran. Some, but very few people on the net are starting to comment on complete adherence of Russia and China also. The basic concepts of Agenda 2030, also previously Agenda 21, Sustainability Development Goals, are rooted in a document from year 1953 by Club of Rome titled The Limits to Growth. A very alarmistic document by the world elite defining us, the humans, as the main problem. This document is a perfect example of conflating real problems with perverse ideology based in eugenics. This philosophy is supported and developed by dozens of think tanks financed by corporations, which get financing from where? From us, the people, without asking us and without most of us even being aware of what is really going on. So, Regis, there is a lot of knowledge around, historical and contemporary, but not enough contextual connecting of dots. People are commenting wars, geopolitics, genocides, but fail to expose the real cause of all major calamities, which is Agenda 2030, and the fact that this agenda is based on false premises and false philosophy. The pillars of Agenda 2030 are rotten. Some evidence for that is simple, out in the open for all of us to see. Some evidence is more complex. One such evident pillar is carbon. Carbon as in carbon dioxide. But it is called simply carbon, as in zero carbon, one of the main globalistic slogans promoted on conferences of corrupt academia, politicians, and corporations leaders. Similar to early days of Vatican, selling indulgences is one of the biggest financial businesses today, carbon emissions trading. Modern day indulgences, both fictitious but profitable. Every budget, from local community to regional, state, and superstate level, mentions carbon as something to be eliminated. But for anybody to see, there is a fact. On the level of elementary school biology. This fact is that carbon dioxide is a gas of life, the basis of photosynthesis, nutrients of plants, which use CO2 and produce oxygen and glucoses out of it. No carbon dioxide, no life. Uncorrupted scientists expose the shocking basic planetary truth. We would need more CO2 in the atmosphere, not less. The present level of CO2, which is some 420 parts per million, is at the lower level of supporting the existence and growth of life on Earth. But not only the mainstream, also within the alternative players who are dominating the internet, there is silent or even loud acceptance of Agenda 2030 based definition of climate change, preaching not only wrong, but perverted role of carbon dioxide. All main heterodox economists like Hudson or Wolff are on one side disclosing many important correct explanations of economics, but follow the globalist narrative to the fullest extent when it comes to climate change. A planetary false flag operation, showing the finger to the wrong perpetrator. Yes, we are confronted with destruction of environment. The culprits for environmental disaster are wars, military activities in general, destructive industrial and consumption paradigm, which are all dictated by the controlling powers, not caused by the people. Secret military operations are manipulating weather, causing floods, hurricanes, earthquakes, droughts. The solution pushed is a war against climate change, sacrificing ordinary people and their way of life and making the richest people even more rich. And then somebody comes like Sabi Sebs, one smart, pleasant, eloquent infotainer, and says, to end the wars, we should end capitalism. This young lady does not have a clue what capitalism is, what is the variety of factors that enter the spectrum of isms we are overflown and manipulated about. Understanding the existential challenge of the human civilization today as a controversy between capitalism and socialism is misleading. It would be stupid if it was not part of the cleverly formed and driven identity politics. Now, let me explain a few most important things, basic things about this controversy. Is capitalism a problematic system? Yes, it is. At the same time, this is the system which, under certain conditions, produced the most human-friendly system so far on the planet, a cultivated, rationally limited capitalism of the West in the period of 1945 to 1970. Then crazy, perverse, more and more financialized neoliberalism took over. And what actually is capitalism? When we criticize it, are we criticizing assets? Are we criticizing liabilities? Or we are criticizing social relations, social governance, which it implies. We should be exact, otherwise we are just spreading confusion and hence collaborate with a global parasitic caste. What are the assets? Factories, farms, homes, machines, cars, roads, railroads, power plants, technologies, these are all assets. Are we criticizing those things? Do we want to get rid of them? Probably not. Most of the mentioned assets have existed in systems other than capitalism, including the so-called socialism. So, when we criticize capitalism, are we criticizing the liabilities, meaning the right-hand side of the balance sheet? Who owns things? To whom we, the people, as citizens, or workers, or farmers, or entrepreneurs, owe? Who is our creditor? Is this the wrong thing? Yes, there are plenty of things problematic related to credits and ownership. And this is a very inspiring field of spreading confusion. Can anybody who does not have a clear understanding of what money is and what money isn't productively help understanding the problem and real causes of problems? I would say no. And I would further propose a hypothesis that nobody with a meaningful influence in public, academic, or lay discourse has a correct understanding of what money actually is, what money should be, and where the elimination of money leads. Mainstream economists, wizards like Jeffrey Sachs or Paul Krugman, certainly do not, which was stated by the most influential heterodox economist, Michael Hudson. But is Michael Hudson coming out with correct, comprehensive definition of money? I don't think so. He predominantly supports the modern monetary theory, which is, again, in part correct, as it explains the money as a social relationship. But this theory, this concept has lost connection between money and value creation, consequently losing connection between value and creation of life-supporting goods and services. They write books titled Production of Money, which is contradictio in adjecto, as they say, a contradiction in itself, in the subject. So, modern society could not function properly without categories of capital, money, ownership, investment, savings. Elimination of private ownership in agriculture has had catastrophic results in so-called socialist systems like Soviet Union, Yugoslavia, and so on. Socialism is idealized or criticized today without proper understanding of what Marxism is, what communism is, what socialism is. There is a wide array of theoretical concepts of Marxist and non-Marxist ideas of socialism. In history, we know how different systems actually performed. Even listening to the Stalin's daughter Svetlana might be illuminating for many. I personally reject Marxism as a general social concept, but share similar views with Karl Polanyi on what are the valuable ideas of Marxist theory. In my life as a politician, I heard criticisms on my account like Kavcic is a Marxist. I received such criticisms when I was proposing political solutions that would improve the quality of life and work of the citizens. So this is a very nasty conflation of terms. Now, to conclude this introductory explanation of basic terms, whoever is not aware of the fact that we live in historically explosive times, that the decision-making powers perform a controlled demolition of economy, culture, society, natural life, well, such a person cannot meaningfully contribute to any kind of breakthrough. So this would be, Regis, my as short as possible connection of actual events in the world today with the basic information on Agenda 2030 and its implications.
That's a lot, Blaz, but I think you did a very good job in giving a basic introduction to the UN Agenda 2030 and what's really involved. I would like to pull the curtain back, if I could, about what I see as three curtains. The first curtain is the United Nations. They have set the agenda, the goals, and that could be referred to as influence, because the United Nations still obviously has a great deal of influence when 199 countries around the world are signing on to this. That's a lot of influence. But behind the second curtain are governments. And the way I see it, governments have the regulatory power, the legislative power. And I think you were referring to that. And then in terms of governments, here's what I see happening, and it's very frightening, and I know we're going to talk about that. Governments are involved in surveillance. Governments are involved in digital everything, currency, identification, biometric measuring. It's governments that are in control of that. They legislate it. And then you get this whole idea of smart cities. You talked about carbon. Well, governments are setting up restrictions on carbon emissions. When you made it clear that carbon dioxide is necessary for life. And so, to me, these are contradictions. Governments are also involved in car reduction policies. These smart cities are going to basically restrict travel. It sounds nice. They're going to be nice and clean, zero carbon, blah, 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 blah. We can walk everywhere. But, Blaz, to my mind, I don't know who on this planet is going to accept being forced out of their homes in rural areas, in suburbs, into dense housing and living. I don't see that. So government I see as the second curtain. Behind the third curtain, Blaz, what I see are corporations and finance. And these to me, the corporations and the financial elite are the real winners in this, at the expense of, as you mentioned, us, the 99%. And here's what Agenda 2030, I think, enables these corporations and these finance elite to do. They are the ones that are creating digital IDs. They are the ones that are creating digital currency. We can see it everywhere. It's absolutely everywhere right now. And it's short of it being fully implemented is the removal of cash, currency, from the 99%. Once they do that, they've created, I think, a virtual prison. They own us. We have no more rights. We are limited to everything that we can do. And these corporations are the ones who really are going to benefit from all of this. I wonder how you would respond to this outline of the three curtains: the United Nations, governments who get influenced by the United Nations, create regulations and laws, and then corporations. Well, who are the ones that influence legislation? In my country, it's obvious. It's the corporations. They write all of the legislation. How would you react to what I just described?
Yeah, I think I agree with your analysis, and it's congruent with the best analysts which are around today, who are very professionally going in depth of what is going on. I mean, in analyzing and describing the situation. I also listen to such analysis, and many have gone very far. Now, my specific approach is a little bit different. I listen to all those things, and I learn every day something new. But I'm developing a comprehensive multidisciplinary approach into removing the curtains. You have presented one way of looking at the curtains. There are maybe other ways also, but there are curtains, definitely. So regarding maybe just curtain number one, which you have described, I would comment on that governments should not have regulatory power. The political system should pursue division of legislative, judicial, and executive power. And one of the main problems today is that the governments are monopolizing too much of executive and legislative power. But it's not really the most tragic situation, because all three pillars of power are similarly corrupted all over the world today. The courts, the governments, the parliaments, we can see it every day. So we live in a system which has outlived its day. So I'm going back to the basics all the time, trying to see what actually is behind. And I see that the problems you have described so well a little while ago, they are complex because of one fact, that many things in the way we live today are very pleasant, very good, very attractive. Even personally, I must say, the quality of my life is in many ways better than the quality of life of any of my predecessors. And we should all be also realistic and thankful to the solutions developed by the positive side of the development we have been part of or experiencing as a human civilization during the last 2,000 years. But here lies also the problem that many of the comfortable, attractive things are poisonous. Actually, this is the thing with everything. I mean, if we are hungry, we need food. But if we get too much food, we get obese, and we get sick, and we die. So it's always, with all these things, is a question of measure, of balance. And the problem with Agenda 2030 and digitalization and digital transformation is that people, for the most part, enjoy electrical cars, electrical scooters, paying with a mobile phone, just showing it at the terminal. People enjoy traveling. People enjoy watching TV and Netflix and pornography, and enjoy fast food, and a lot of things are attractive for different tastes of people. Everybody today gets some sort of offer of a lifestyle and some idols and so on. And so people are sort of, they don't want, for the most part, people don't want to stop using the positive sides of the system we live in. But the problem is that all these good things are connected to the devious intentions of the powers behind. And I mentioned this basic document, Club of Rome, Limits to Growth, which sets the main things, the main trends. And we get manipulated by different kinds of ideologies, and we get manipulated by wrong perception of what technology is. Just to connect to your last questions, I will propose few ideas. One thing we are indoctrinated with is what technology actually is. Technology is basically a good thing, but it can be used for good things and for bad things. It depends on the social governance system. And social governance system today is very bad. It's going to more and more destruction. One of the demonstration of this fact is that the most wealthy people today are the people and networks who create most devastation, most harm. So it's a controversy. Most clever and most beneficial people should be the richest among us, but they are not. So everything is perverse, and it serves a system of governance, divide and conquer, and identity politics. So I have been analyzing again and again, and I had to go back in history, 2,000 years, to see some sources of the system we live in today. And this is, I call it the Roman imperial system of social governance. We have to first to analyze and understand what Apostle Paul has done with Christianity. Christianity initially even didn't have name Christianity. It had a different name. It was in Palestine, a movement of rebellious, progressive people trying to bring about positive changes and bring down corruption within the Roman Empire. And they were just obscure movement without any power. And then Apostle Paul actually transformed the idea of Christianity into something completely different, from rebellious ideology into ideology of compliance, humility. And this was very important. And this was the basis for the Gospels and then writing of the Bible and so on. But then the crucial change came with Caesar Constantine, around 300, 350, with the Council of Nicaea, where he organized Christianity in a business-like manner. It was a strategic concept of of how to organize Christianity. And then he actually made a strategic merger of Roman Empire administrative system with the philosophy of Christianity turned around on its head, created by Apostle Paul. And out of it came a very efficient system which was successful in establishing and maintaining power for the next 1,700 years. It was so effective that even 100 years later, in 476, when Roman Empire collapsed, the Germanic people took over the system of social governance developed within Roman Empire. And then we got, in the next 1,000 years, the so-called Holy Roman Empire. And this is the system we live in today. This is the imperial system of governance, where global network of power was developed further. And this is the only system that has had continuity. It fell down, but it got up again. So even all the conquests of European civilization, starting with Portuguese and Spanish and Christopher Columbus going west, Vasco da Gama going east. And then we had Jesuits going in depth and in height, developing these systems under Ignatius Loyola. So these were the component parts of a social governance system which proved to be the strongest among all the systems which were around the world at that time. And from that time on, every empire had to make some sort of strategic partnership with the center of the soft power of Holy Roman Empire, which was the papacy, which was even not all the time in Italy, it was for some time in France. But even the conquest of William the Conqueror around 1000 of Britain actually then started to support this spread of this ideology towards the West. And today, I hear analysis of who controls the world. Is it Israel and Mossad, or is it United States? This is wrong. This is wrong way. I mean, Israel and United States have the same master, which is one level higher. So talking about how come the small nation of few million people, which Israel is controlling the world, is delusional. It's a wrong way of thinking. Why is Netanyahu like a greatest Hollywood star when he comes to American Parliament? It's nonsense. It's staged. It's all staged. He has no personal power. He's an excellent performer, an actor, fulfilling the orders which he gets from behind. And it's wrong to understand that, let's say, even if we take the assassination of Charlie Kirk, is it Mossad or is it not Mossad? Definitely they are one of the most equipped and they have motive and so on. But it's a global network. It's a division of labor, as J.D. Vance explained to Europeans. So yes, there are curtains, but we should understand how the society is governed today. What are the real powers, and we should understand also that the situation, if we look back at 1,700 years, is not black and white. we must admit that this set of doctrines, which I have explained, have created devastation, but also progress. We have had Inquisition. We have had bloodthirsty crusaders. But we have also had technological advancement. So history cannot be changed. We can just analyze it, respect it, and try to see how to go on. And if we continue as a human civilization, if we continue the way things are going now, we will just be one of the numerous civilizations which has collapsed. Because the way things are going now, the mega trends are negative, are destructive. Whoever does not see that is accomplice if he's on a public scene. And let's not wait for the common people to wake up. Hopefully they will, certainly partially, but common people should be allowed to see their personal life and their professional life as a playground for their activities. But the people, the elites, the intellectual elites, should really come out and form the national intellectual and operational teams, first for defense and then for the liberation. And whoever did not establish so far from the thinkers of today that we, the people of the planet, the 99%, are under existential attack, well, he's working for the other side. So this will be my view of this things and the historical analysis. And
well, I think that was an incredible historical analysis. And going back to the time of Jesus of Nazareth, he was a reformer, a social reformer. He was a rebel, which is why they put him to death. And, I maintain that when people say, "Are you a Christian?" I say, well, I'm a believer in the radical Jesus. His basic message, which as you brilliantly outlined, had been compromised, contorted by St. Paul and then Constantine in the Council of Nicaea. And from then on, it's been a matter of social governance, which I think you made very clear. With the little time that we have left, Blaz, and we're not done talking about this by any means. At the very end, you said, if we keep going the way we're going, we're in trouble. It's just going to be another civilization that's disappeared. I would like to highlight these couple of things. One, the Club of Rome was about sustaining life on the planet. Eugenics. Some people don't know what eugenics is, but it's a matter, and it's a philosophy, it's a theory of reducing the global population. Klaus Schwab and his crowd in the World Economic Forum talk about a golden billion. There are others now that are talking about that's even too large. This is really what's afoot. When I look at what's happening, the advance of technology, technocracy, digital everything, artificial intelligence, and a friend of mine has recently labeled it artificial ignorance. The Native American people, when they hear like artificial intelligence, they can't conceive of that. The only intelligence is human intelligence. Even the name artificial gives it away. It's not human. And I think, Blaz, this is what's happening. We are being dehumanized. All of this technology, technocracy, the digital prison, as soon as they take away cash and they implement this, we're in a virtual prison. We're slaves to those who are in power. And the question is, Blush, will anyone, including the 1%, survive? What are your final thoughts?
Well, I would like to see 10 people in each national state trying to formulate first assessment what is really going on, and secondly, what to do. It has been done in the past, in the history, and it will have to be done again. The level of national state is the most important one, is the most critical one. And a lot of criticism today and false propaganda is against national states. And a lot of, let's say, American criticism is against statism. I think it's it's a wrong way of thinking. We can change a name. It's not state, it's something else, but we have to be aware of the fact that we, the people, we have to organize ourselves somehow. Not have to, it's the way we are. As a living beings, we have evolved into organisms with soul who can only live in society, in collaboration with others. Is it a partner, your wife or husband? Or is it a family? Or is it a village? Or is it a town? And the organizational level of a national state is the one we have to get back first. Now, it's a very problematic level, and governments are corrupt by definition today. But we, the people, we have to gain control over our governments of national states and then establish a humanistic international cooperation based on mutual interests. This would be my request to all well-intended intellectuals around the world.
I wonder if you would agree with this. I listened to a video program today, and this particular person is very well known in the United States, and he follows trends. And what he said was the number one trend that he sees in the United States and around the world is Gen X and Gen Z. They see no future for themselves. They come out of school, come out of college after they've been convinced of going there, and they can't get jobs. So many of them, millions and millions, are out of work. This amazing thing, an earthquake that happened in New York City. This guy, a Muslim, in democratic New York City, owned and operated by the bankers and the Jews. He comes out of nowhere to get 1 million votes and is elected the mayor of New York City. Why? Because he appealed to so many of those Gen X and Gen Z who came out in support of him, who are struggling, who can't find jobs, who can't afford daycare if they have children, who can't afford public transportation. And this video, and the person on this video was saying that this is happening around the world, that it's the younger people, those who have not benefited like you and I have, better than our parents and grandparents. They see no future. And Blaz, in my opinion, if anybody can do it around the world, it's these young people who now I think are waking up that have nothing to do with climate change, with carbon, with money, with everything. I think a major movement is happening that is just beginning to be felt. And that's my hope, Blaz. I don't see much hope coming from our generation. I don't see any hope in the governments in the United States and across the West. I don't know about the rest of the world, but I don't see what you're talking about coming from them. Anyway, Blaz, I can't thank you enough. It's always a pleasure. It's such a deep conversation. And, I think for people to grasp it, including myself, It's taking many of these conversations, additional research, to gradually come to understand not only what we're facing and what all of this propaganda is, but on how to get out of this mess that we found ourselves in. Blaz, thank you so much again. We'll do it again real soon.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure, Regis. All the best. You're doing a great work. Thanks.